Glad you all are here. Welcome back for another week. Hope everything is going great out there for you guys. We wanted to have just another opportunity for you all to get together and to ask questions of each other and to share resources and just make sure that you all had all the information that you needed to successfully move through the NTI instruction and the final days of our school year. If you have questions that you'd like to ask, feel free at any time to jump in if you want to do that, or you can always write questions over in the chat feature and I can read those out for you and get feedback from other folks. But we're glad you're here and ready to get moving for another day. So before we get into questions, there are just a few things I wanted to share with you all. A few updates.
He's talking, I can't hear him.
Ben, you do this every time. I hear Ben say, I see him, but don't hear him.
I can't hear a word he's saying.
I can hear you just fine.
Somebody tell Ben we can hear him before he says something I'm going to regret. There we go. We'll see how this goes. All right, so as we're doing that, just want to share with a couple of things that we have shared out with you this past week and some updates on some of the extended days. I know there have been lots of questions about the extended day calendar and Senate Bill 177, which provided a waiver of the remaining instructional days beyond your traditional calendar. So days beyond your traditional calendar that are part of the KECSAC contract, those were waived within Senate Bill 177. And so I wanted to just share with you a couple of things about that, and then also if you have questions about that, we can address those as well. The legislation did an automatic waiver of those remaining extended days beyond your traditional calendar. So you don't have to apply to get those waivers or anything like that, but we are asking that you notify our office if your district has decided to waive those remaining extended days. We just want to keep track of which districts are doing that so that when we get contacts back from legislators or the Department of Education, we have a record of that. Many of you have already contacted me if you are waiving those days and let me know. But if you have not done that and your district is considering waiving those days or have made a move to waive the remaining extended days, please let us know. And then also how many of those days you're waiving. Most folks are almost already all done with their extended days. So of the programs that we've heard back, I mean, we have ranges from they're waiving the remaining 4 days to the remaining 8 days. So there's a little bit in there for those and some variation as well. But just want to let you know that is automatic, but we are asking that you contact our office and just let us know if you're doing that and how many days you're doing it. The other thing, several of you have asked, are there financial implications from KECSAC if you decide to waive your final days? From KECSAC, in regards to the waiver of the extended days, we are not changing any allocation out to districts for this school year based on that. So you'll receive at this time the same allocation that was projected for you and that is in our contracts with you. So none of that will change as a result of this waiver. I do want to share that I'm very careful in saying that as a result of this waiver. I want to be sure that I include that language in there because we don't know what's going to happen in the fiscal year that's remaining between now and June 30th. We all know, and I think we all recognize that we're in a pretty severe economic downturn in the Commonwealth. Unemployment rates have skyrocketed, not just here, but across the country. And we have lots of financial implications in the economy as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. And so we are responding to that as best we can, but we also yet don't know if there will be any implications for the state budget at this time. We have not heard any discussion of that. The governor has not mentioned that there may be a budget shortfall this term, but I think just those of us who are paying attention to what's going on, I think we have to know and recognize that the potential is there. And so we're preparing for that internally. And that's one of the reasons why we did not allocate the mini grants for the current fiscal year at this time, because we just did not want to jump out there and allocate funds to districts that we may have to have returned back to us. So we didn't want to do that, and that's kind of where we are. So I'm very clear in saying that the waiver of those extended days will not have an impact on the allocation from KECSAC for this school year. Some of the other questions that people had was about teacher contracts. So if there are teacher contracts in place currently and you decide to waive those extended days, KECSAC is not involved in that decision. That is a local education agency decision. And so your local school board and your local superintendent will have to make decisions about, if you decide to waive the extended days, what that looks like in your district and how that impacts teaching staff and those kind of things. But the allocation from us would not change. So it's just a local decision about how you all will handle any teacher impacts or those kind of things, or contract impacts moving forward. But from our perspective, we're not involved in those local decisions at the local board level about contracts or teacher pay, any of those kinds of issues. That's a local decision. And so that's where we will leave it. But also just know that in doing that, the KECSAC allocation for this school year based on this waiver will not change. Does anyone have any questions about any of those issues? I don't see any over in the group chat yet, but if you guys have questions, you can unmute yourself and jump in there, and I'd be happy to try to address those, or at least research those questions if I don't have an answer and get back to you. Okay.
I'm gonna pick it up too. We had this little thing. She puts it on the door knob. Exchange it like that. So I just got to call crazy.
Okay, so thought that was a question there, but okay. So then moving along from that, some other things I want to let you know. Just a reminder that in response to the COVID-19 crisis, we have suspended all program improvement site visits for the remainder of this academic year. I know that we had 58 of our 78 programs have already received a site visit this year, but the remaining 20, those will not have site visits for this school year because of the COVID crisis and because of the restrictions placed on visitors within our facilities and at programs across the state, as well as in-home instruction and what that looks like and how we would even conduct visits. And so we are just one of many agencies, the Department of Education, the Department of Juvenile Justice, and others all also waived their site visits for the rest of this academic year. And so those 20 of you out there that didn't get a visit this year, you're either really lucky or you were really, really, really wanting a visit and now you have regrets about that. But either way, we will see you in the next academic year. We are working with Angela Austin and Peggy Shearer about what that will look like. And so I know they've reached out to me and asked for some guidance on that, and I'm working on that. So I'll be back with them about how we're going to move forward in the next school year with those visits and what that'll look like. I think everything still is just really up in the air right now about what that'll look like. You've probably seen in the news, if you've been following, that even Jefferson County, their superintendent has been talking about what next school year might look like, even indicating that they are exploring whether or not they will have to start the school year with NTI instruction rather than a traditional classroom setting. And so I think those conversations are still taking place, and we're hoping that's not the case, obviously, and I know all of you all are hoping that as well. But we're looking at what our visits will look like and how that will impact us moving into the next year as well. All right, a couple of other things I want to let you know. We talked last week, and I think maybe the week before that, about a new professional learning community that we're developing online. It's with Hassan Davis, the author of the book Written Off. He is going to be leading a 4-week discussion around that book and how to use that book with your students. That'll start on April 28th and run through May 19th. It'll be every Tuesday at 10. Many of you have registered for that, In fact, we're at capacity for that PLC. We reached our limit of the number of people that we can get in there, but we are taking a wait list. So if you are interested in being on the wait list, you can still register and reach out and contact Katie Helton in our office. Her contact information and the registration information is included in our COVID-19 updates that have been going out for the last couple of weeks. So you'll have access to that. But we're really excited about the new format and about offering this opportunity to programs and to staff across the state in a different way than we have done in the past. And so we're glad that you guys have signed up, and we look forward to talking with you all and with Hassan as we start these discussions moving forward. One other thing, in yesterday's COVID-19 update I sent out, Lorraine Wilburn, who is the out-of-home coordinator for the Department for Community-Based Services, shared with us some information about Voices of the Commonwealth. Voices of the Commonwealth is a foster youth organization. It is made up of foster youth who are ages 16 through 21 in Kentucky, and they have created their own advocacy and support group. And so they are holding meetings with foster youth who are ages 16 to 21 on Fridays at 3 p.m. And so we thought that might be a good opportunity for many of you to get your kids involved in those discussions. It's all online, and it can be supervised, obviously, or however you all feel comfortable doing that. But it is a good opportunity for our foster youth to connect with other foster youth across the state and talk about some big picture issues that are impacting them and their education, not just education, but also just life, about independent living, about how to prepare for life after placement, what that looks like, post-secondary education, a lot of different topics that they're engaged in and talking about. And it's youth to youth. So it's not facilitated by workers or by anybody at the state level. It's a youth organized initiative. And so many of you may be interested in doing that. And so we provided you with the link as well as an attachment about how to get registered for that for your students. Again, that's every Friday at 3 p.m. So we hope you'll take advantage of that and then let us know how it went. We'd love to hear from you. I also want to let you know that the Department of Education, just this week, have finalized their programs of distinction. And so they were initially going to be recognized last week at the State Board of Education meeting, but obviously that changed. And so now they're going to be recognized at the June Board of Education meeting. But I wanted to give a shout out to those districts that were recognized. There were 11 programs across the state recognized as alternative programs of distinction, and several of those were KECSAC programs. And so we want to give a shout out to those. McCracken Regional School in McCracken County, I see Lucinda up there. Congratulations to them for once again being recognized as a program of distinction. We're really excited about that for them. Mercer County Day Treatment in Mercer County was also recognized. This is their first time, I think, being recognized as a program of distinction, and we're really excited about the work that they're doing as well. We also have the Providence School in Jessamine County. Eric Sowers, I think, was on here last week. I don't see him here this week, but he might be there. They have been a long-standing program of distinction and have been recognized for many years about the outstanding services they're providing there. We're really excited about that as well. And the other program for us is in Jefferson County. It is the Western Day Treatment, which is an elementary-aged mental health day treatment program for grades K through 5. They have a very unique model, but I think a model that many of our districts could learn from. And they've been doing really great work for a long time as well. So I wanted to especially recognize all of those programs and thank them for their work, and that we can all learn from them, and that we can use them as models for how we can all continually improve the services that we're offering to our students across the state. Sherry Klusky and I, Sherry, when she was originally with the Department of Education, and then Lachina Carruthers, who was with the Department of Education until today. And officially today, she has now moved over to the Title I Administrator for the Department of Juvenile Justice. And myself visited those programs over the last year and did site visits with them, reviewed their application, and were really excited about the quality of work that they were providing. So congratulations to all of those. We look forward to continuing to work with them. So those are kind of the updates that I had this morning that I wanted to share, and I'd love to hear from you all about what questions you have, what's going on in your programs, what you would like to what you'd like to talk about. I'll open the floor.
Hello, everyone. I am just concerned, as I'm sure some of the other day treatment programs and things of that nature, about the lack of structure and free time with our students. We always have a lot of students who get in trouble over break. This was no unusual circumstance as far as spring break goes. So we've had several AWOLs, several who've been arrested, several things of that nature. And I'm just struggling with the amount of time period that they're going with unstructured and difficult family lives.
Anthony, I think that's something that we're all, I think, cognizant of and also concerned about. And it's not just in our programs. I think all of us who have children at home as well through this, or have friends and family who are also working through this, this is certainly an unusual situation for all of us. And even in those households where things are very stable, it's still creating a lot of uncertainty and unease with our kids. I'm not sure exactly how we respond to that, other than knowing exactly what's going on and offering support as best we can through providing structured learning opportunities as best we can in this kind of environment. We do have over here Sarah Vivian. Frankfort in Franklin County has implemented a curfew for their kids. I think it's 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. They have a curfew to try to keep kids off the streets and out of communities and that kind of thing in the evening hours. But even about that, we need additional structure, I think, is what we all recognize. If anybody has any ideas about how you all are doing that or what that looks like, I'd love to hear those, and I'm sure Anthony would as well.
Yes, Ronnie, because it seems like the first 14 days that we were under NTI before we had our spring break last week, we had a lot of control, a lot of involvement. Since we've came back from spring break, the structure that they were under has just fell apart, and we're struggling with reaching some of our students.
Other folks, when you've had a break or when you've gone to spring break and come back together, are there ways that you all have reached out to kind of coordinate everybody and pull them back together into a cohesive unit? Has anybody else had to respond, and what have you done? Anthony, I think everybody else is doing great.
I actually have a comment about that now that I think about it. At Louisville Day Treatment, we, all the teachers, including the Jefferson County teachers and myself, have been basically doing a phoning circle, and we've been keeping track of it on a spreadsheet for attendance purposes. But every day, each one of our students gets called by one of the teachers, whether it be me or one of the core content instructors, or even our counselor is actually pitching her hand in to try to help with that some. And at this point, I think we have been able to reach out to and speak directly with all but one of our students.
That's great. Thank you, Courtney. I think that's good advice and a good way to kind of connect and stay connected with students.
One of the things that, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
I was going to say, one of the things that we've done here in Franklin County is, and I agree with Mr. Young, we have seen an increase in detention hearings and missing persons amongst our youth. And so my counselors and I got together with the DPP and his team and put together like a most loved list. and we looked at kids not only involved in the court system, but who we needed to wrap some extra mental health services. And so we have the SROs involved. We have our dropout prevention coordinator, our attendance liaison, anybody in the district outside of our school who may have an extra relationship with those kids. Just as our teachers are calling 2 to 3 times a week. We realized we had initially wanted to call 5 days a week. That was very overwhelming for our parents, but it was to make sure that they had food. And, you know, right now our biggest concern is the mental health and the basic necessities. But we've backed off of that a little bit, but we did add an extra layer just for the families who do need that and the kids who need that. And so we have communicated at this point, we're in week 5 out, but 4 of school day, 4 weeks. We have had communication with every family but one, and they were a brand new move-in. And we are still trying to figure out if they are here or if they have indeed left the state.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Courtney. Anthony, also, I think we have Jeremy King, who is in the comment section, noted that their resource officer is making home visits to their most critical students as part of that wraparound. And I know you're also doing that. I know you have an exceptional SRO in your building who is, I think, a former SRO of the year just recently, who would be a really great resource also to utilize as effectively as you can. I know that he's spread over several programs in your district. So, but I think the way Sarah talked about creating that team approach of pulling several different folks in the district together to make sure that they have that support system while they're at home, especially those students who, I like her language, those must love students, not the most wanted students or the most at risk, but those who are most loved but need that additional support. And so I really appreciate that approach and looking at how they can be more effective in reaching those students. So good suggestions. Anybody else have things that you're doing in your district to respond to those kinds of issues? Great. Can I ask, one of the things that someone has asked me about that I said I would bring up on this is related to the day treatment programs in particular that have the mental health and counseling component requirement for that. And so I'm interested in hearing from some of you about how that's working, how you're able to continue to provide those required counseling services for students and what that looks like for you. I know we have several day treatments on here. I'd love to hear back, and so other folks can hear from you as well about how you're approaching those required mental health and counseling services for your youth.
I'll jump back in, Ronnie. I was just answering Christine's comment about, are we having Zoom meetings? We are doing Google meetings. Our middle school teacher and team, that whole middle school group is a very, very needed, loved group. And so they do weekly, if not 2 times a week, Google Classroom meetings. And then our 3 counselors are doing Google meeting groups, and they put together a Google Classroom with videos that they have recorded just to initiate response from students. And they're doing that with groups. So they invite the kids into the group session. Yeah, that's what we're doing here in Frankfort.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. Other folks?
We also created with our counselors a Google Classroom where they do treatment assignments every day, and as well as answer a Google Journal survey where we check on if they're having their needs met, if they have food, how their anger is for the day, how they're getting along with people at home, those things, and then the counselors are contacting them depending on their answers to the question and processing it that way.
Thanks, Anthony. Anybody else that has a day treatment that wants to share how you all are addressing the counseling component?
At Louisville Day, our JCPS counselor has actually taken over some of the responsibilities of doing the relationships. She posts in our Google Classroom that we share across the entire school different assignments for each week. We've had a few different people, a few different students that have actually responded to it at this point. I'm looking at the relationships assignments right now. But because of the way that JCPS is set up, we can't get the counselors in there right now. So she's doing everything she can to be a proxy, essentially.
Great. Thank you, Courtney. Okay. Are there other questions or other areas that you all have questions about that you wanted to get feedback from other programs? Here's your opportunity. We'd love to, we got everybody here.
I do have a question. I'm sorry. I'm full of it today. Budget. How is everybody doing with spending the remainder of their KECSAC budget for the year? We've been told as a district to, limit everything down to essentials. And so I'm just curious how that's working for everybody else.
So I would, Sarah, this is Ronnie. One of the things that I would just ask you to share with your district is that unlike SEEK allocations or other allocations that have the ability to roll over from year to year, KECSAC funds have to be expended by the June 30th deadline. So while other people are, they can hold over, I think it's up to 20%. And there may have even been some additional flexibility in Senate Bill 177. I know that they have flexibility in other funds that come into the district, but KECSAC funds have to be zeroed out by the end of the June 30th calendar year. So I would just, those folks who are saying only purchase essentials or only look at that, I would go back and say that, just remind all of them that that account has to be zeroed out by the June 30th deadline.
That's what I wanted you to say. Thank you so much.
Hey, DJJ.
Hey, Ronnie,
Yes, sir.
I've got a question. I have heard a rumor that it's possible that our budget will be based on our ADA from 1819. Have you heard that rumor?
Are you talking about your SEEK? Or
Yeah,
your
ADA.
KECSAC?
Talking about the ADA.
Oh, okay. As far as KECSAC funds, we're still planning on basing it upon our ADMs from this current year. But I'm not so sure about SEEK.
Jim, I just got confirmation that it is going to be based on the 1819 ADA for next year.
Thank you much. You made me happy.
Included in that Senate Bill 177 as well.
Good deal, because obviously it would kill us. I mean, we'd lose people if we didn't, because what's going to happen? We've still got 60 days, and I was talking to Peggy before you guys got on, but we're dropped to about 14 people ADA at Lake Cumberland, so that would affect us. But if it's going to 1819, that'll allow us a year to sort of get back on track there. So thank you so much for that.
Mm-hmm. That is in the language. We included the full copy of Senate Bill 177 in the COVID-19 updates we've been sending out. I'll include that again just so that you have a full link to that,
Okay.
so you can see that language specifically within the bill. But I think the General Assembly recognized that at this point that there would be some pretty dramatic impacts across all districts, and so they included that language in there as well. So it was great forethinking on their part to consider that.
Okay, thank you.
have a question about Title I funding. Typically, we have to be zeroed out by June 30th. Is there any talk about maybe letting us carry that out further? I don't know if Shannon is still on here or not, but that might, especially some of those districts, like the lady said a while ago, that they're kind of told only order essentials and things like that. Give them a little more time to spend that money when things kind of go back to normal.
Justin, I was just looking through their participant list to see if Shannon was on here. I don't see Shannon on here today, but I will ask that question and get some information back specifically about DJJ Title I. And then I'll also reach out to KDE about their Title I to see if they have had any flexibility in that as well, and what their kind of guidance that they're putting out is. But I don't have that information right now, but that's a great question.
Yep. Ronnie, I know that I talked to Karen, and she indicated that they're going to give some flexibility after June, and she was asking us if we are set on our June 30th deadline. So we may need to contact them just to verify if we want to still stay on their timeline, regarding to extending that June 30th date out.
All right, thanks, Christine. We'll get more information and get that out to you. But we appreciate the question, Justin, and I'll find out kind of where we are on that. Anybody have additional questions? All right, I'm not hearing any, but I'm fine with having a little bit of silence just in case people are trying to think about jumping out there. Just an additional update on the ADM appeal process. I know many of you have reached out to me about your allocation for next year. We are currently still in the ADM appeal process window. We sent those appeal out to districts several weeks ago now, a couple weeks ago. And those districts had 5 business days roughly to respond back to us. And then we had 10 days after that to review those appeals and provide a finding back to those districts. So we're in the process of that right now, of looking at those. And once we have determinations on those ADM appeals, then we'll be able to actually look at the number of students that we're serving. And now we know our budget allocation for next year is the same as the current year. That's what was included in the budget that passed both the House and the Senate and signed by the governor. So we expect that that we'll have that information shortly, and we'll be able to get that out to you all on our regular schedule when we normally do that, which is right at the beginning of May. So you'll have your exact allocations for the upcoming year. All right. Hearing no other questions, I want to again thank you all for doing this. We'll be back here again next week, same time, same place. And we hope that you'll join us then, and we can, if you have any additional questions or anything between now and then, please let us know, and we'll be happy to respond to those. In the meantime, I'll do a little bit of research, Justin, on that Title I issue that we didn't have a response for, and get that information out to you as soon as possible. But we appreciate all of your all's time, and thank you for the hard work that you're continuing to do. And we will talk to you again soon. Thanks, everybody.